Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today we're going to do a quick lesson on adding and subtracting decimal numbers. Now, before I started the video, I asked you to write down everything you know about adding and subtracting decimals. And let me know, what do you have about adding and subtracting decimals?
I know that you can put any number you want as long as you put a decimal.
Okay, you can have any number you want as long as you put the decimal. Oh, I'm team shaking. No hands, ladies. Audrina.
You have to line it up so you don't mix up like the place values.
Okay, good. The place values have to be lined up. The place values have to be lined up. That's an important thing. The place values have to be lined up. That's important. That's important. I used to say the decimal points have to be lined up, but that's not really true. They're going to be lined up if you line up the place values. And then remember, if you don't have stuff written down that is said, you may want to write it down. Emilio. Do what? You couldn't come up with anything? Man. I have to call your teacher last year too and just tell her she didn't do her job. Jake, adding and subtracting decimals.
I learned that if you move the decimal, it changes the number.
Oh, if you move the decimal, it changes the number. Good. So like, let me ask a question first. The number 75. Everybody look at that. That's a whole number. That is a whole number. Emilio, which digit is in the ones place? In this number here? The 5 is in the ones place. The 5 is in the ones place. So Bryce, does the number 75 have a decimal point?
No.
Say yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it does. Good job, Bryce. The number 75 has a decimal point. Because the decimal point is behind what place value?
The 5. The ones.
The ones place. It is behind the 5. If the decimal point is not written down, if it just appears as a whole number, it has a decimal point. The decimal point's always behind the ones place. So if it's not written, it still has one. It's just behind the ones place. Just like if I said $16, which number's in the ones place here?
6.
6. Or $16.00.
They're the same.
They're the same. The decimal number's behind the ones place. If I don't put the decimal number behind the ones place, I have $1,600. Just like Jake said, if you move the decimal point, it changes the value. Now, I would rather have $1,600, but that's not accurate. I'm just saying. So if it's not written down, then you need to make sure that you write the decimal point behind the ones place. I used to ridiculously say behind, you line up the decimals, but you got to line up the place values. Because if you have the number 86 plus 3 7/100, you have to know what number's in the ones place here? 6. You have to know that you have 86 and your decimal point there plus 3 7/100. If you don't know to put the decimal point behind the ones place, you're going to get some cattywampus answer that makes no sense whatsoever. No sense whatsoever. So you have to line up the decimal point, or you have to line up the place values. Right here we have the ones place over the ones place, tens place over the tens. I don't have any tenths. Should I do anything?
No.
I should?
You should add the zeros.
I
so
should
it lines
add
up
the
place
zeros. Why should I add the zeros?
value. So it lines up the place value.
So it lines up the place value. What if I did a subtraction problem and it looked like, oh, let me ask you real quick. Oh, I got a good team shake here. I paid 99 cents. I'm gonna get my money's worth. Blake, what would you do? What would you get here in the 10th place or in the 100th place? Would you just bring down the 9? No. If you don't put the 0 here, it's not going to work, because over the 78 years I've been teaching, that's what I said too. 78 years I've been teaching, people continually want to just bring that 9 down, and it's not accurate. It's not accurate. Because now, Blake, now I have 0 subtract 9. Can I do that?
No.
So I have 0 hundredths, subtract 9 hundredths. So what should I do, Blake? Excellent. I'm going to regroup, just like Blake said. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to take 1/10 away. So when we had our number squares, one column is 1/10. So now I have 5/10.
The other one is 10.
And I have to add those 10/10 that I took away, or that I broke up. I took 10/10 or 1/10, and I have to break them into hundredths. That's 10 hundredths. So I add 10 hundredths to whatever I had there, and I happen to have 0.
And that's not
Now, Blake, 10 hundredths subtract 9 hundredths, and what do I get? 100. 5/10 subtract 3/10, Blake. 2/10. And since I have to line up, my decimal point's got to come straight down. Blake, 7 subtract 4. 3, excellent. And Blake, 8 subtract 1. 7. So I have 73 and 21 hundredths. 73 and 21 hundredths. The hardest thing about this is making sure we remember to put that 0 and we remember to line up the place values. That's the only difficult thing. And like I told you guys 3,286 and a half times, you're always going to know how to do the math. It's going to be silly little things that throw us off, that make yourself mad at yourself for missing problems you shouldn't miss. Take your time, concentrate, think when we do this, and it's an easy grade. Boom, shakalaka, peace out, God bless, love you, do something kind today. Subscribe.